Next time I'll get it right, but for now I'll stay right here where I belong.
You have an amazing opportunity, young generation, to rise above and be proud of the choices you're making, and get out of a codependent culture and be responsible for you and work harder in your life than anyone else ever will.
What do you want? What do you want out of your life? Where do you want to go? If no one else will fight, I'll be the one. I'll be the one to step into their world. I'll be the one to walk with them.
And I mean it more than you'll ever know.
Some people will ghost you. Well, then maybe they're not real friends. At some point in time in your life, you are gonna have to come face to face with yourself.
Next time I'm getting it right. Will you believe me if I say this is the last time?
And then she points at me and she goes, there's greatness inside of you. Sometimes we need people to believe things for us until we can believe it for ourselves. Because I look at what I'm doing now and it's not lining up with what they said I couldn't do. And now I'm doing everything that people said I couldn't do. Because now I travel the world and I share my story.
Next time I'll get it right, but for now I'll stay right here where I belong.
And by the time I was 26, I was sitting in 30-day inpatient treatment for alcohol. My family wanted nothing to do with me, couldn't hold a job. I was codependent, all because I thought I could get away with it. I should probably have about 10 DUIs. I only have 2. My last one was June 24th, 2010. That was the DUI that changed my life.
For it to hurt more, to stay the same. When I get through this storm, I'll find it on my own. And I'll mean it more than you'll ever know.
And so I'm going to talk about connection and belonging. We're looking for a place to belong where someone can come out and say, hey, we want you here. I want you here. We want you around. We say we live in such a connected world. If that's the case, if we really say we're more connected, then why is everybody more depressed?
There's no dumb kid. There's no worthless kid. There's only kids that have been starved of love and have been wounded so badly, they're just looking for a place to lay. We can't change the history, but we can help shape their future.
Next time I'm getting it right.
Take one thing that you want to focus on to overcome in your life. Take one thing at a time and walk through the process. The process is only a process if one stays in it. If you don't stay in the process, then it's no longer a process.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Peer Purpose Podcast. I really hope you enjoyed last week's episode. Such a delight to be here with you all. Again, we want to hear from you. peerpurposepodcast@gmail.com. If you have anything that you would like us to talk about, any questions that you may have, I am here to be a resource for you. And again, questions I often turn into podcast topics. So here's where the episode we're at today is. I actually recently got a message from a girl that was at a school that I was at last year. And I often get this quite a bit, actually. I'll be honest with you. A lot of kids from like the age of 16 to like 18 or 19, kind of, this is one of their biggest issues. This is one of the biggest concerns that they have. And it's almost like when this happens, they get hit so hard just out of the blue and they start thinking, oh my gosh, I'm 18 years old, I'm 19 years old, and I haven't accomplished anything yet. I haven't done anything, Bobby. And so this girl, this was her concern. And so I want to cover this today because we have to understand some realities here today. And this is the biggest thing I believe that is being created in our society today, that there's not a lot of realistic things going on. There's a lot of fantasies being sold, and I'm just here to debunk that because it's just not true. Okay, and so I want to talk, and this is one of them. And so I'm 18, I haven't accomplished everything yet, okay? Let me tell you something. You are not going to accomplish everything by the time you're 18. You shouldn't be expected to, okay? To me, you are creating standards and expectations in your life that are actually not going to be beneficial, and honestly, you will not be able to reach them in the long run. I want to help you out today, and if nothing else, I want to give you some peace of mind to say, I just have to continue journeying through life. I have to continue putting one foot in front of the other, and I have to continue just doing what I can do. Here's the thing about it, y'all, and I'm going to get into giving you some practical tips with this and some actual things that you can hold on to understand that there's not going to be a situation ever where you're going to feel like you've accomplished everything in your life. That's just part of being a human being, okay? But here's one of the things that I want you to understand. I was 29 years old when I figured out my purpose. And I actually thought my purpose was something other than it was. I thought my purpose was going to be football. Clearly, that didn't work out. I had to go through some life a little bit more down the road. And then I had to realize that I was being built for my purpose all along. And I was 29 when I figured it out. And honestly, it's been amazing ever since. But trust me, there are things that I'm still like, gosh, why aren't I further? Right? So we have to get this today where we understand there is never going to be a time in your life where you're probably going to feel like you've accomplished everything. The goal is to be content with where you're at. Because if you're always striving for the next best thing, when you get the next best thing, you're never going to be okay with that. Okay, so here's the thing you got to understand. First thing I want to give you is that life is long, y'all. It's long. In the scheme of the bigger picture, it's not that long, but we're here for a while, okay? Life is super long. We have to understand it's going to take a lifetime to understand your purpose. It's going to take some time for you to feel like you're actually living in what you are fulfilled to do. And so I want us to get this today. You're not going to accomplish everything by the time you're 18. And if you feel like you are going to, I'm sorry, you're living in fantasy land. And I want you to come back down to earth. It's not going to happen, okay? Here's another thing that I see a lot of. We oftentimes pick up things that aren't ours. This is what I see a lot of in the young generation. That's why I feel a lot of you are struggling with, and I'll get to the comparison trap a little bit later in this episode. A lot of you are struggling with that because you pick up things that aren't yours to carry. A lot of the times you actually let people who have no influence in your life speak into your life. And so they're living from a situation where they have never gotten to understand you. They have not known your life. They don't know your heart. And so they're judging and being assumptuous based off of what they only see on the surface. Okay, and so a lot of the times when we pick up things that aren't ours, we oftentimes carry those emotions with us. And many times we can do this because we start looking at people's lives around us and we start saying, well, look at where they're at. Why aren't I not there? And we start looking at things. We start listening to people. We start listening to all the voices in our heads. And this will actually get us to self-destruct, because then we'll never feel like we live up to anything. I remember there was many times early on when I started getting on the healthier path, I had people telling me things, and after a while, I was like, man, I can never live up to this. Like, these people are acting like I need to be perfect, and I am not perfect. I am a flawed person. And it was exhausting every single day trying to keep up with, I have to do this and this and this and this. But when you understand that not everything is for me to pick up, then you can sit in a place where you say, okay, this is my responsibility today. And that's all I need to focus on, okay? We have to get other people's voices out of our heads. I believe this is a lot of what feeds I haven't accomplished it, because we hear from people, whether it be on the internet, whether it be at friends that are even friends that aren't doing anything, right? They're not doing anything significant that you haven't done, but they're saying things into you. It matters. And so we have to understand what we're listening to and who we're listening to, because if we don't, before you know it, we're going to be chasing everything, and you're going to start trying to grab just at things, and eventually you end up grabbing nothing, because if you try to do everything, you'll end up doing nothing. Okay? A lot of us have to be okay with who we are as a person. I believe this is another thing that feeds it. A lot of us aren't okay with who we are as people. And so we don't like what we sit in. And some of us are faced every day to sit and face ourselves. And the longer you run from that, the harder it's going to be content with yourself, because you'll never, ever, ever get to a place where you're going to feel like you're good enough if you don't confront yourself. Okay? I actually had a person, I'm going to talk a little bit about this, and then I'll go into detail in another episode. But I had a person recently tell me, I just need to get out of this town. And one of the things I told him, I said, yeah, but here's the problem with that. It's like, you can move anywhere you want. You could go to Brazil. You could go where. You can't run from yourself, though. So until you confront yourself in whatever it is, if you're feeling like you haven't accomplished something because you haven't put in the work, or maybe you wanted to try something, but you're too afraid that it may not go your way, or whatever it may be, until you confront that, you're always going to pick up the things that aren't yours to carry, because you're going to never feel like you're good enough. Okay? We have to get content with where we're at. You know, I can use an example of social media. There's a lot of people that have a ton more followers than me, but I don't care, because I'm impacting people. And as long as I'm impacting people in real life, social media doesn't really matter to me. But we live in such an illusionary world that we think because it looks good, it's actually something that is beneficial to everybody. But I'm telling you, it's not always the case. So if we can get this today, that if we confront ourselves and we can say, okay, I'm content with where this is at, then whatever you accomplish, you're going to be okay with. One of the things I told this person, I said, you just graduated high school. And I guarantee if I start asking them the question, like, how many people in your family actually graduated high school? I guarantee you there would be a select few from her family. So that's an accomplishment within itself. You graduated high school. So you have to just look at the little things, that everyday things that you may not think are a big deal, but they actually are. If you can get to that place where you're overcoming something that you didn't a week ago, that's accomplishment, y'all. And so let's get to the place where we start looking at the everyday things in our life as accomplishments. But one of the biggest things of this person to this point, you graduated high school. Oh my goodness. Like, let's celebrate that out. Okay? I think a lot of this comes down to, we feel like we got to take responsibility for other people. Okay? We feel like if someone says something to us, it's our responsibility to take on what they say. If something's happening with that person, it's our responsibility to take on what's happening to them. In this young generation, I'm sorry to tell you, you have to learn to start taking responsibility for yourself. And you have to start picking up what is only yours to pick up. And I'm going to get to a little bit more of this in another episode about actually what that looks like and how you can get there. But when we can get to a place where we say, I'm responsible for me and the things that I do, the choices that I make, and the consequences that come from them, the work that I put in for the life that I feel like I want, when you can get to that place, I promise you the accomplishments will come. Okay? I didn't start accomplishing things till I started doing the next right thing. Once I started doing the next right thing, then things started changing for me. I had a mentor, one of my very first mentor. Shout out Randy Hartz, man. I love that guy. I saw the life that he had. And I just said, man, he's been through some things that I've been through, and he got to their side, and I wanted to know how to get to their side because I wasn't to the other side yet. And I'll never forget this. He used the illustration of a train. He said, you've had so much momentum going in one direction negatively that it's going to take some time to actually stop that train in motion and turn the train back around to go the other direction. But when you do, Bobby, he said, it will start falling into place. And he was not wrong about that. I had momentum going negatively for many years of my life, so it took time to turn it around. But once I did that, then the next right thing, doing what I know I need to do for myself, making the right decisions, making the decision to get healthy, making the decision to learn and grow, and how do I make these mistakes, but how can I turn this around? That's when things started falling into place for me. The speaking in my career was a byproduct of just getting right. And so once I started accomplishing things because I got healthy, it led to more, okay? You have to live some life first. That's the only way you'll accomplish things. Because if you go through your whole life with no hardships, the minute you hit a hardship, you're going to be derailed. So you have to learn, what does it mean to make mistakes? Part of life means figuring things out, making the decisions on your own, going away from your parents when you're 19, 20 and saying, no, I'm going to go live out. Even if they say, hey, that's not a good idea. You're saying, no, I need to go do this. I need to move out. I need to go learn about myself. Go make the mistakes that you need to make. That's the part of this. You're going to understand that making mistakes is a part of self-discovery. You're learning the limits in your life, the boundaries that you can push and the boundaries that you can't push. And once we get to that place, then we start shaping ourselves as an individual. And we really start, because when you move out of your house, you have the same beliefs as your family growing up. But then when you move out, you start experiencing the world in a different way. And then you start developing your own beliefs, and you start developing your own values, and you just start developing your own interests and different things like that. And that's what continues to lead to you accomplishing things in your life, because it leads you down the path of where you want to go. Okay? So living some life is a part of accomplishing things. You have to know what you like, what you don't like. Oh, I made this mistake. Okay, we won't go there again. Or, oh, I did this. This worked out good. Let me double down and keep building on that. Okay? Comparison is a trap as well. I told you I'd get to it later in this episode. Comparison is a huge trap. If you're using your friends or social media to compare that your life isn't as good as theirs, that every other life represents a life better than mine, you are going to find yourself really down a rabbit hole of negative cycle, because you're never going to ever think that you're good enough. You're never going to think that enough is enough. You're going to get a little bit of things, and then you're going to say, this is enough, I need more. And then you're going to end up chasing the wrong things. Okay? A lot of people in this life, they chase fame, they chase money. Well, last I checked, when we all leave this earth, you can't take fame with you, and you can't take money with you. The only thing we take is the relationships that we've had here on earth. Why do you think we're connected to people in the way that we are? We are not connected to any other thing like we are connected to relationships. There is no connection between us and our money. There's no connection at the end of it. It severs the tie. Okay? Comparison's a trap. We all have a lane that is unique to us and specific to us. And when we get down that lane, that's when we start again accomplishing those things that are unique and start defining success in our own right. Okay? You have to understand that there are certain places you think you want to reach in your life, but when you get there, they're not going to be as it's cracked up to be. I'm telling you. There's certain situations that doesn't change you as a person for the better. Okay? And the last thing I want to share with you is just grace. I want you to show grace for yourself. There's no finish line. If you feel there's a finish line or someone's told you that, they are lying to you. There's no finish line. There is not a finish line. Then there's phases of life, but there's no finish line. There's never a point where you say, oh, I've arrived. I'm here. Nope. Because when you get to that place, then there's always going to be something else for you to go after. So there's no finish line. It's a lifelong process. We have created this microwave overnight successful thing that has actually plagued us. And it's not great. But there is no finish line. It's a process. I love the process that I went through in my life. Different phases. I learned different things, and different people were in different seasons. And then I moved on to different seasons and different phases of my life. And for those phases that I was in, I had exactly what I needed. And the next phase of life, I had more because I was able to build on it. And I realized that in every single phase of my life, these last 8-9 years, I had exactly what I needed. And each season was specific to that season. And had I been in a different season, I wouldn't have been well equipped. So we have to get to this place where we show ourselves some grace. Okay? Life is going to throw you hard situations. There's no doubt about that. There will always be hard situations. And like I just said, every hard situation is going to help you develop skills for each phase of life. Okay? Watch what you're chasing. Some of you need to sit down and redefine your goals. What am I actually chasing? What am I seeking here? What is it going to be for me? Okay? And I would really encourage you to realign your priorities to the things that actually matter and the thing that hold value for you in the long run. Maybe you want to have better relationships with your family. Maybe that's an accomplishment some of you need to go after. Maybe you want to be a better friend. Or maybe you want to make better friends. Okay, maybe you want to get to a place where, gosh, I don't take much responsibility for my life. I need to start doing that. These are all accomplishments that if you get to those first, the other things will fall into place. Okay? The other things will fall into place. I promise you, we're going to be okay. There is nothing that you go through that you can't get through as long as you're willing to walk it out. Okay, I want you to keep climbing. There is so much gold inside of you that's going to help you walk the greatness outside of you. Continue to live whole and a full life. I want you to start realigning the priorities in your life to become the best version of who you're created to be each and every day. And I promise you, I will see you at the top. I love y'all. I'll see you next time.
Next time I'll get it right.